I went to picture theatres when I was 6 years old with Dad. So the Ring Theatre in Pingelly was my little Saturday night spot. That was like, you know, most blokes go to the pub and go, we'll go to that particular pub because that's our favourite spot. Mine was the Ring Theatre. So from the age 6 right through, and I never watched any shows because by half time I was asleep anyway and Dad would have to cart me home. But, you know, we grew up in the picture theatre and I've always been very, very involved in motion pictures and photography, and so that sort of thing flowed through, and it sort of became part of me with motion pictures and theatres, and it sort of grew on me like a rash, I suppose. I thought, oh, I've got to get involved in this. So I came across a bloke by the name of Robert Yelland who had Consolidated Theatres, and somehow we cracked up a conversation and I said, oh yeah, so I got quite keen, and I studied to be a projectionist, which is quite an involved thing. So I really enjoyed getting involved in the drive-in or the motion picture scenery. Then we sort of started looking at films and what brings people into the drive-in. I mean, what's the point of having a drive-in if you've got really horrible movies? So we're looking at Smokey and the Bandit, and we're looking at Jaws and all that sort of stuff, and Grease and you name it. But one night we decided we'd put on, you know, people say, oh, I want horror movies. I don't know why horror movies attract people. Nobody ever watches them because it's all done with, you know, like that sort of, you know, like, I'm watching it, but yeah. So we thought, okay, so we'll put on 2 horror movies, and I can remember it was Tales from the Crypt was one of them, and the second one I think was just called Dracula. So we put on the first movie, and I don't think that the audience that was there that night saw more than half of it because they were all like, hiding behind the wall and hiding behind. So, but that night just happened to be like a huge amount of kids. I think every kid from WA must have turned up that night. We had like about 40, 50 kids in the drive-in. And anyway, so half-time came and all the kids are like, oh, did you see that ghost come out of that coffin there? Oh, wow. And then they start talking about the cemetery, which happened to be close to the drive-in, and I'm going like, oh, this is really going good. So then we put on Dracula, which was really scary, and about 10 minutes into the movie, these kids came running up the steps because there's like about 15 steps to the upper story because that's where the film room was. There's a big bang on the door, and I open the door and there's like about 20 kids there all on top of each other. Oh, Pete, you got to see this. There's a big devil came through the drive-in. Oh, my God. He was going making a big noise. It was dragging something. I don't know what it was. And there's like big horns and it's the devil, it's the devil. And I thought, you know what? It's actually happened. All the stuff they've been talking about, someone's crept out of the cemetery, been close to the drive-in, and now they've ended up in the drive-in. Here I am with all these kids screaming and yelling and carrying on. And I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. I said, I've got a big gym torch. How about if we go and look for this devil? Yeah, but it's scary. So I'm walking along with this torch. There's 20 kids all hanging off me. They're all around me. Like you could feel them. They're all shaking and trembling. And I'm going, well, what the heck's going on here? So we looked around, and I'm now getting scared because I'm thinking, well, I wonder what it is. I mean, who knows? So here I am with this torch, and we went right from one side to the other. No, nothing. Then we went right down the bottom end of the drive-in where the exit gate is. And there, in the torchlight, is this great big brown milking cow with a big pair of horns, a bell around its neck, a big hunk of chain. And I said, hey, kids, it's not the devil, it's a cow. Oh, no, it's still the devil, they reckon. I said, no, it's a cow, it's a moo cow. Look, it's okay. So everyone sort of calmed down. Oh, it's a cow. And can we chase it? I said, leave it. Don't leave it where it is. Don't chase anything. And then we found out that some boys had walked past the cow that was tied to a tree because someone had it as a milking cow. They undone the chain and dragged the cow down to the drive-in and chased it down the drive-in, entry ramp. And so then they must have thrown something at it, and the cow bolted, and so that's what it was. It came charging through the drive-in. How it never hooked up onto the speakers, how it never hit a car, I'll never know. But this thing, and it's moving and carrying on. These kids like, so it. Honestly, every time I think about it, I think, oh my God, that is just the funniest story ever. Like, who on earth would ever think about doing that? You know, like, it's country kids at their best, but of all the nights, I picked the most scariest movie to go and do it. And I thought, well, at least it sort of all fitted into the show, didn't it? You know, like the scary movie, the cow, like the moo, yeah, it was lovely. I can never forget that. That's just one thing I'll always remember forever.